So here's my presentation and teaching on fractions. First thing you should know about fractions is that they are all around us. In life, as you go through life, you'll notice fractions are everywhere. For example, so what's the fraction here? You can see a circle and a symbol. You might recognize which company uses that logo, but when I see that, I also see a fraction. What fraction can you see? This one you might see in a sale. So here it is 1/2, which you might know is half price. This sim pack is $30 now. How much was it before it was half price? This, so let's just see, is a clock, as you should know. The time here is 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. It's 4:30, but there is another way we can say that. You might see that it's halfway from 12. There's another way you can say that time. Maybe you know how to. And finally this. So I don't know the size of this, but it might be half a liter of Coke or Fanta, I don't know. But this is actually a famous burger that when I used to eat meat, I used to like to get. It's called I don't know if you know. If you do, you can comment below. So fractions are all around us. And here you can see some fractions. Although they're not exact fractions, these two sandwiches were once whole and now they've been cut two ways. So you've got triangular and small rectangular sandwiches. Does anyone know what fractions they've been cut into? So fractions. I'm going to give you a few seconds just to think about each of these questions. So try and answer them in your head. First, what is a fraction? If you were here now, what would you say if I said, what is a fraction? So for me, one way of seeing it, a fraction is part of a whole. So it's not quite the whole thing, it is part of a whole. Can you name any fractions? So the most common fraction you might have heard of is half. You'll hear that often in, for example, in telling the time. You'll also hear quarter, which comes into telling the time. You might have heard of a third, a fifth, a tenth, a sixth. Where and when do we use fractions? So we use fractions in many things. You could see in a restaurant they use fractions, like that burger, which was called a quarter pounder. You might get half a liter of a drink. Fractions in cooking. So maybe you need to pour in, I don't know, 5.5 liters of water to a soup. Fractions in measuring. So engineers will use fractions. Maybe you need to measure something that is 4.5 centimeters or 20.5 meters or 20.25 meters. Business. So maybe you own a shop and you're going to have a sale and reduce everything. So you're going to have half price sale. So everything will be half price or a quarter price sale. In sport, many American sports have quarters. Football, soccer, has halves. A game of soccer is usually 90 minutes, but there is a half time. So you might be able to work out how many minutes in a half. Rugby also has half, but rugby games are 80 minutes. And you might just need it in life. Maybe you're at the talent show and the talent show is on for 2 hours and they say halfway through there will be a 15-minute snack break. So you could work out, okay, when am I going to be able to go to a toilet? When am I going to be able to have a snack and a break? Funny, why is it important to learn fractions? For those reasons. Fractions are everywhere. You need it to know fractions if you're shopping, maybe if you're selling something, maybe if you want to be an architect, an engineer. work in a hospital, sport. There's lots of fractions in sport, as mentioned before. So fractions really are everywhere. So fractions, we will learn what is a fraction, what are the parts of fractions, and how to show a fraction in different ways. So what does half mean? Here's an apple, and there's an apple in half. When something is split in two equal pieces, it's important equal. Each piece must be the same size. We can call each piece a half. How do we write the number half? Simple. 1 over 2. So it's actually 1 divided by 2. So the 2 is the number of pieces it's split into. There's 2 pieces. And 1, this is how many of those pieces. So this is half of the apple because it's 1 piece, but the whole apple is of 2 pieces. This is important. The down part of the fraction is called the denominator. Say denominator. 5 syllables. This is the number of pieces it is split into. And the top part, you might know, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The numerator. Say numerator. This is the number of pieces. So this is a half. The numerator is 1. The denominator is 2. So first challenge, can you spot the shapes with half of the shape colored? I'll give you 20 seconds. Go. And how many are there? Right, so here are the answers. The first one, yes, it's a half. Second one, it's a half. Third one, it's a half. Fourth one, it's a half. Fifth one, no, it's not a half because it's not equally split in two. Sixth one, it's a half. Seventh one, it's in 2 parts, not a half. And eighth one, not a half. There were 5. They are all equally in 2 parts. Remember the term. Equal. They must be equal. What is a quarter? When something is split in 4, or halved again, 4 equal pieces, we call each piece a quarter. So there's the apple in quarters. This apple isn't a perfect quarter because you can see the core there, but generally speaking, that apple is being divided into 4 quarters. And there are your 4 quarters. How do we write the number? Simply 1 over 4. 4, the number of pieces it's been split into, and 1, how many there are of a piece. So that's a quarter. It's 1 of 4. So 1 is also known as a whole. Split it in 2 and you get a half. 1 out of 2, 1 out of 2. Add them together and you get a whole again. Split them in 4 and you get 4 quarters. 4 quarters makes a whole. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. Now let's look for the quarters. I'll give you 15 seconds this time. Go. Right, so how many quarters were there here? First one, quarter. Second one, no, that was a half. Third one, quarter. Fourth one, tricky. It's a quarter. Fifth one, quarter. Sixth one, definitely not. Seventh one, is that a quarter? Yes. And eighth one, quarter. So the answer was 6 of them were actually shaded with quarters. Right, so showing fractions. Here you can see a fraction, it's 4 out of 6, and there's 4 different ways here that you can show it. So the first one over here is a number line. So it's just a line. It's divided into 6 parts, and this is the 4th part, so 4 out of 6. Note that these parts are not exactly the same distance apart, which means it's not accurate. So when you do it, use a ruler to make it accurate. Here's a fraction bar. And again, it's a bar like a bar of chocolate. There are 6 parts and 4 of them are shaded. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, a ruler hasn't been used, so it's not accurate. You will need to use a ruler and make sure each part is the same distance apart. That goes again for this, so it could be a pizza or a cake. This circle isn't a perfect circle, so you'll need some kind of stencil, maybe the base of a cup, to make your circle and divide it into 6 parts. Use a ruler again. So although this isn't perfect, it does show 4 out of 6. And finally, parts of a group. It's here, and you can see there are 6 circular shapes and 4 of them are shaded. So that's how you will show it. So divide your paper into quarters and then show number line, fraction bars, parts of a group, and this is a circle, so using a shape. You are going to do exactly the same on a piece of paper. Divide it into quarters, and you can go for hot and show me the fraction 5/6, or you can go for spicy, a little bit trickier, and show me the fraction 5/8. I want a shape, so use a ruler or a stencil. Like I said, if you're doing a circle, maybe you could use a cup, something like that, or use a ruler. You could also, if you have a stencil, then maybe hexagon or an octagon, and you could work out how to divide that into 8ths or 6ths. A bar model, again, use a ruler for 2 reasons. 1, to make the bar model, the line straight, and 2, so you can measure each part exactly. A number line, use a ruler. The line must be straight. The parts must be the same distance apart, or it's not a proper fraction. And an amount, be creative. For example, you could make it Explorer related. Maybe you could draw 8 ships, show a fleet of 8 ships with 5 sailing happily and 3 sinking. So that would be 5 out of 8. So this is one I made. I just want you to look at it. I'll give you 10 seconds. Look at it and just tell me what is wrong with this. Okay, you may have noticed there's quite a lot wrong with this. We'll start with the fraction bar over here. First of all, you can see I haven't used a ruler. It's not straight. And also the parts of that bar are not the same size. That is much smaller than that one, for example. Right, what about the number line? Again, you can see it's not straight, it's wonky, but also the distances between the numbers. So that's quite large, but this distance here is much smaller. So it's not accurately 4/6. This circle, I've drawn it by hand. You cannot draw a circle by hand. It's impossible. No one in the world can do it. And if this was a pizza and you got your 1/6 and someone else got 1/6, oh, I don't think you'll be happy because yours is much smaller than theirs, so it's not an accurate fraction. Finally, parts of a group. 4 out of 6 kids wear glasses in grade 3. There's nothing really wrong with this. I know it's not true and the drawing isn't great, but otherwise it's okay. So these are the problems, and this work would score about 4 out of 10 because it's not great. So I'll give that 40%. Can you do better than that? And finally, this will help you. Just showing the fractions and how the circles are divided. And you'll see it's all equal. All parts are equal. Going back to that first slide, the fraction I was thinking of was thirds, and the company I was thinking of was Mercedes. Right, good luck. Upload your final piece onto Seesaw. Thank you.